All right, we are live again here, talking conference tournaments. Happy to be back here with Kiev O'Neill from the Odds Breakers. We're breaking down several of these tournaments here, kind of rapid fire fashion today. We love this conference tournament time of the season, so appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit the thumbs up button below, share it with your friends, and let's try to cover some ground here today and have a little fun. Kiev, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. I love this time of year. I can talk forever about college basketball and conference tournaments. So great idea having this little rundown that we got going on, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit impromptu here, but I wanted to talk about some more of these conference tournaments. We talked about some last week. Let's try to hit on these this week and go rapid fire fashion. All right, let's start with the Big Sky. The Big Sky is already going on, so we can talk about it a little bit here. And let's go Big Sky. What do you like in here in the Big Sky? There's nothing really that I love here in this one. Let me see if I can get this shared here. All right, this is the bracket real quick for the Big Sky. We've got Northern Colorado, Montana State, and Montana and Idaho here tonight. A couple upsets have been pulled. Idaho, the Vandals beating Portland State. Montana State, just a tiny upset there over Idaho State. But Kiev, you like something here from the four teams that are left?
I mean, to be honest with you, I was on Portland State, but I kind of like Montana now here in Starch Madness. You know, Montana is probably the well-rounded team that I'm kind of looking at here. And I think, you know, their side of the bracket is what I liked a lot here. I knew it was either them or Portland State. In my opinion, Montana took care of Northern Arizona. Now they get to play Idaho, which was obviously the upset team. You know, Idaho got hot, and that's just how these tournaments are. They get hot and then they're bounced. But now I think that, you know, Montana's got the easier way in my opinion, in this tournament. Montana, pretty solid offense. I like their effective field goal ranking 26th in the nation. Not the best rebounding team on offense. You know, the defense is not good, but ranking 256th in the nation, I'm not going to say that's really bad. You know, I think that's fine. Now, obviously, Northern Colorado is what we expect them to play. Northern Colorado are also a great shooting team. Northern Colorado plays a little fast, so they can get in a little trouble. Just from a pricing perspective, Montana's got the better odds. And so I think that they have the easier way in that they're playing Idaho, because Montana State can be feisty. So I like Montana, not for a premium play, but for a little sprinkle.
I'm seeing Montana plus 165 here on DK right now. Definitely shop around. We'll say that consistently. And even if we don't say it, definitely shop around. There are some very different prices across the board here. So you want to get the best value you possibly can. All right, let's go to Atlantic 10, Kiev. We will I'm going to share this tab. We'll look at this bracket here briefly. VCU gets the 1 seed, and George Mason, Dayton, the 3 seed, Loyola Chicago, the 4 seed. As far as the odds for this one, let me share this real quick. VCU minus 120 at DraftKings. Kind of surprised me VCU is minus. I do know VCU is a good team, and we talked about VCU last week, Kiev. I think they're a team that could do some damage in the tournament as long as they make it. I think they will. Dayton, really inconsistent. They could definitely win this conference tournament. They could also lose their first game. You never know what you're going to get from Dayton. They're plus 550 here at DK. George Mason's plus 600. St. Joe's plus 800, and on down the line here. I'll go first here, Kiev. When I'm looking at this one, I want to try to find somebody other than VCU, because as much as I like VCU, I'm not taking minus 120. I just don't think they're head and shoulders above everybody else, and they don't get buys to the semifinals or something like you do in some of the other conferences. So I think it's tough to lay at minus 120. As far as who I would take here, I kind of wanted to take either St. Joe's or Dayton, and the problem is they play each other there, or they would play each other. I haven't bet anything yet personally. St. Joe's, I've seen plus 800 pretty consistently across the board. I know some people like George Washington also out of the bottom. I think you got to try to find a team out of the bottom here that you think could make a little bit of run. You don't want to go against VCU right away. Could George Washington beat George Mason in that second game? Certainly could. They've had two very close games against them during the regular season. So, as I'm looking at my chart here, I see plus 3,000. I think was the best I could find on George Washington now. I could see that. I haven't bet any money on this one yet, but those are the three teams I'm considering: George Washington, St. Joe's, and Dayton. How do you look at this one here, Kiev?
Yeah, I like Dayton at 5-1. I don't know if it's still 5-1. I have to look at DK.
550.
But that's where I got it. And my thoughts are, and this feels like I'm just being like a victim of public recency because they just went and beat VCU. But I did watch that game, and I was on VCU in a money line situation because I think I teamed them up with somebody else, and I thought Dayton really was also the better team. What's funny about these situations, Kyle, is we try to find reasons that teams could win, and the truth is there's all kinds of reasons we don't even think about, right? And we just try to use the common ones that we use for handicapping when it comes to spots and stuff. But when I look at Dayton, they already are pretty good in tournaments from what they did out in Maui. They only lost to North Carolina by 2. They almost beat Iowa State, losing by 5, and then they beat UConn by 19, 18 points, right? So, neutral courts have been good to them. They also beat Marquette at home. Then they just kind of hit the A-10 and just what the heck happened? They kind of fell apart. I don't know if they were partying too much or whatnot. I mean, these are kids, right? So, but the truth is that you look at the guys that they brought in this year, like Zed Key from Ohio State. You look at Malachi Smith, right? He's been a staple here, and they got talent, and sometimes it just takes until the tournament happens where the talent tends to shine through. Dayton doesn't have a ton of weaknesses if you're looking, really at their numbers. They had bad free throw luck, ranking 314th in opponent free throw. You can say the same thing about VCU too, but VCU tends to go hot and cold a little bit on offense. They do rely on their offensive rebounding a ton, but when you're going against the really bigger teams that you're going to face in the NCAA tournament, and especially against Dayton, where they have a 7-1 guy, right? They have a 6'11" guy. They got Zed Key 6'8", Nate Santos 6'7". I think that they're going to get the rebounds too, and that's what I saw in the last game. So from a pricing perspective, 5-1's worth it to me because I also think George Mason is also fugazi on offense, being that they turn the ball over a ton, ranking 328th and turning the ball over, and they rank only 213th out of 364 teams in adjusted offensive efficiency. Defense can take you far, but I mean, I think you're going to need a little offense in the A-10. So I like the number on Dayton at 5-1. Obviously, if it was even at VCU, then I would take VCU. But at 5-1, I like Dayton.
Yeah, I think George Mason's had some good fortunes, especially on defense. If you look at some of their advanced metrics, shot quality doesn't like them going forward based on the 3-point defense luck they've had in general. I mean, you can have a pretty good 3-point defense. You can also get pretty fortunate. It looks to me like George Mason's a good team, but not a team that I'd want to be backing just because, like you said, you need to have some decent offense. They don't really have great offensive options. So to me, I think that's a good pass there. Dayton 550 on DK at this point, I think is the best I see when I'm looking around. I might bet that one as well. I'm a little bit worried because Anthony Grant's teams are so inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get from Dayton, but Dayton has the high upside. We'll see. I might even take Dayton and one of the other teams there from the bottom. Nothing wrong with that. So let's go on to the next conference here. Let's go Mountain West next. I'm going to pull up the bracket here. So we've got New Mexico as the 1 seed. Colorado State is the 2. Colorado State came on big time at the end of the season. I was pretty surprised at how well they were playing at the end of the season. The 3 seed Utah State, the 4 seed San Diego State, the 5 seed Boise State. So Kiev, I wanted to bet Boise State here before I looked at the bracket, but I don't like their setup here because they play a team that they could easily lose to in the first game. And then if they win that, they have to play the 1 seed. I can't bet it at that. I don't think that's a very good setup. So I again want to take somebody from the bottom of the bracket. I do think Utah State's a quality team, but they're so much better at home than they are on the road. It makes me wonder about them in a situation like this. Colorado State, they've played great of late. UNLV, do they get home court advantage and make a run here? I don't know. Let's see. Kiev, what do you think here about this Mountain West? It's a lot of different teams that could win this.
Yeah, and there is. I think Colorado State is the one I kind of keyed in on for value here. I know this is like the Dayton going to Boise. They went to Boise and win, similar to Dayton. But if you look, this conference, Kyle, is terrible on the road. All these teams have been very, very bad on the road. But Colorado State finally at the end wins 6 or 7 games in a row, 7 games in a row, and 3 were on the road. Now I know that one was UNLV and the other was Air Force, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But the one at Boise was really interesting to me because not only did Boise need that to be an at-large team, I mean, they fell off the bubble really because of that. Now Boise needs to win this thing, and Colorado State is trying to take it from them. And Colorado State is pretty balanced on offense and defense, ranking 49th in adjusted offense efficiency, 62nd on defense. So, I'm just liking what I see out of them lately. They still have to rebound the ball a little bit better. It's funny to not be talking about San Diego State, Kyle. I still think that, this team is completely overrated. I will probably be looking for spots to fade San Diego State myself, but the number on Colorado State was just better than the 2 or 3 of them that I thought, were a little bit fugazi in this tournament. So I'll just bring up the numbers, and I'm throwing a quarter unit on this. I'm not, the Mountain West isn't one that, I'm as keyed in on as Dayton, but New Mexico has been trouble away from home. Utah State as well. Colorado State is now down to plus 350. I got them plus 450, so it is what it is. And then Boise's plus 425. Now that the price dropped, I like Colorado State less, but it's still worth beer money to me, but nothing too big in this conference. It was funny, Kyle? I was looking at the Rick Pitino and Richard Pitino parlay. And if you want to parlay St. John's and New Mexico to both win their conference tournaments, you get like 8-1. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd have to do the math a little bit on that one, but I don't know. I mean, New Mexico, they're the 1 seed. Are they clearly better than everybody else? Not really. I think I do like Colorado State some as you talk about it here. I'm going to shop around, see if I can find better than plus 350 because I'm guessing somebody has 400 or better here. I'll look around, but I actually thought it might even be worth a chance to take a tiny flyer on Nevada when I saw plus 3,500 on that one. So
yeah, that's a great number, man.
I mean, I might bet that just because, something stupid could happen in this conference. That. I mean, none of these teams are that much better than the rest.
And they have an easy give me against Fresno. Right. Fresno and Air Force are terrible this year. Terrible, It's almost like I would trust San Jose State, and Wyoming more than those two. I think that they go right to face Colorado State. So 3,500 is a fantastic price on Nevada.
Yeah, we'll see if that's still there. I didn't bet that, but that was yesterday at MGM. So I'll look at that one a little bit more afterwards. But for the purposes of time, I want to keep this rolling so we can hit several different ones. I would consider Colorado State or Nevada here in this one as my 2. So we're thinking quite a bit alike on this one. Let's go on to the Big West. This is one that I know you wanted to talk about here. Let's look at so UC San Diego, UC Irvine, and everybody else. This is not like the Mountain West where everybody has a chance. It'd be pretty shocking if anybody makes a run that's not those 2 teams. Now, could UC Riverside or Northridge pull an upset? Of course they could, but I mean, the odds are telling you that that's not very likely at all. And I think that makes sense. I really hope there's two teams make it from this conference, Kiev, because we don't really need a middling team from one of the big conferences to make it instead of one of these two really good mid-major teams. I mean, I say that even as a Buckeyes fan. Ohio State's not that good. I'm rooting for Ohio State, but they've cost themselves many times with blowing it at the end of games, and then that Northwestern game at home, different games like that. I'd love to see the Tritons make it, even if they don't win this. They've been fantastic this year. UC Irvine's a problem because they're so good defensively. We've seen them pull upsets before in March Madness. So I will look at the odds here, but I'll let you go as far as I haven't bet anything in this one, Kiev, and I don't know that I'm going to. But what do you like here in the Big West? We got UC San Diego minus 160, Irvine plus 175, then CSUN plus 1200, Riverside plus 1700.
Kyle, I would love to see UC San Diego Tritons make it, even losing this tournament. But as we know so well, money talks and bullshit walks. And those SEC guys after that football season that our Big Ten just put on them is dying for some good news for them. They're trying to get 14 teams in. I disagree. I think that conferences should be limited personally, even if they deserve it or not. I'm sorry. Make conference play important, Look, I laid minus 160, Kyle. I know that UC San Diego is not going to bend in this situation because they know they're not getting in either. If I'm that coach, I'm like, you make sure these games aren't close. And believe it or not, I did lose a bet on them in January 11th when I did bet them to beat UC Irvine at home, and they lost. And I was like, man, what happened? All the shot quality numbers were looking great. I had Justin Perry on, and we both thought the same. But then, after the UC Riverside hiccup, they went on just a massive run. And we're just a covering team. Look, they're just way better than the rest of them, Sure, they had their hiccups, but now that they're going to be playing here on a neutral court, I just think that they're so much better than the rest. Now, I will say that if you think you're going to get cute, like pick the Tritons to be a sleeper team in the NCAA tournament, you better get in line because everybody's going to be doing that. I don't even care who they're matched up against. People are picking them against any of those 7 seeds, right? Any of those 8 seeds that they're probably going to be a 9 or a 10, right, Kyle? I mean, this is going to be an upset.
Yeah, I mean, they might even seed them lower than that, even though they shouldn't be. I mean, we've seen some of these pop out at 11 or 12. And you're like, how is that? But we know about the 12 over 5. And if it is on one of those 10, 11, 12 lines, it's going to be super popular public-wise. And the first bracket that comes out, Kiev, it's going to be like Seth Davis and some of the others being like, here's your upset to start with. And then everybody kind of just jumps on and says it right away. But I don't blame you, minus 160. I mean, Northridge, I don't think is a very tough matchup for them. UC San Diego went back to UC Irvine later in the year and just crushed them at UC Irvine. I mean, they really dominated them on the road. I do think they're the best team here. I worry a little bit because Irvine's defense is so good, but then you kind of question, if you got minus 160, what are they going to be money line wise in that last game? It'd definitely be bigger than that. So if you think they're going to make that final, then this is a pretty good price. So I don't blame you. I haven't bet anything here, but I could see that being the case as far as where this one would break down.
I usually don't lay juice, as too, Kyle. This is like
yeah.
I mean, it feels like they're Duke and UC Irvine is Clemson or Louisville. Maybe Lucy Davis is one of them. It just feels like the distance is that big, and that's why you see Duke at minus 350, and then you see this at minus 160. So it's like, why would I not take minus 160 if I feel the difference between them and the next team is that big?
Yeah, I can see it for sure. All right, let's talk about the SEC, the aforementioned SEC. We'll go into the SEC. Let's pull up the bracket here first. I mean, gosh, there's a lot of good teams in the SEC. No doubt they're very good in college basketball this year. If you look at Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee, the top 4, Tennessee has shown that they really care about this one a lot. Not a Rick Barnes guy in general, especially once you get into the big dance, but they've done a good job in this tournament. I know they care about it. I think some of these teams might not care a lot on whether they win this tournament. So trying to handicap who those teams are and who cares, who doesn't care is kind of tricky. Kiev, let's look at the odds here for this one as well. I'm seeing Auburn at plus 150, Florida plus 270, Alabama plus 425, Tennessee plus 600, Kentucky plus 1900, A&M plus 2500, Missouri plus 2500. All right, first, Kiev, do you think any of these teams that are outside the top four, who do you think outside the top four would have the best chance?
Outside the top four, I mean, from an odds perspective, I would probably say Kentucky. They have a guy named Lamont Butler that it has this kind of tournament pedigree because the dude has played at San Diego State. He went to the final game. He's just so seasoned in these situations and so ready to go, and that's got me really thinking about putting a little bit on Kentucky. So it would be them, but I did play somebody else in the tournament.
Okay, I see Kentucky plus 2,500 on Fanatics, plus 2,300 on FanDuel. So you definitely want to shop around. This is not a great number here, plus 1,900 on DK. So I think I will bet something on Kentucky in this one, Kiev. That's one of the two that I was considering here in the SEC. But if you look at the other top seeds all the way through here, who do you like here in the SEC, Kiev?
Well, here's the thing, Kyle, and I'm trying to get in the minds of these coaches and kids, which is a bad idea a lot because I try to play GM when I'm doing the NFL draft, and then there's still some jackass guy drafting the 7th wide receiver in the first round that never ends up panning out for any reason whatsoever. But I have to look at it like this. Auburn won this last year and did terrible in the tournament. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to want to win. Everybody wants to win. But if I'm Bruce Pearl, I'm more lax on this tournament. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let you guys go out there and decide. I'm not going to be in their faces, Get past the first game. It shouldn't be his priority to go through this gauntlet of rough basketball. These guys play rough basketball because they're all big inside. Injuries happen in these types of situations. I have to say the same thing for Alabama too, because they were a Final Four team last year. Well, I think their eye is on the bigger prize themselves. Tennessee, we just don't like Rick Barnes in general in these tournaments. Kyle, I think Florida's also the best team in the, I think Florida is still in their minds fighting for a 1 seed, which is somewhat possible. Maybe they don't want to put 3 SEC teams in. Maybe they're going to go Duke, Auburn, Houston, and maybe they're just going to try to fight Michigan State in. But Florida doesn't want to be in that situation. So I think they have a lot of reason to fight. But it's not just that, Kyle. Florida's fans are dying for something good because their football team has been so bad for the past 7-8 years, for a long time. In general, since Tim Tebow, right? They haven't done a hell of a lot there, and always losing to Georgia. So from a fan perspective and a school perspective, I think they do want to win this tournament, and I think the motivation is going to lie the most with Florida. But in saying that, they're top 10 defense, they're top 3 offense. They rebound the ball. They play fast. They can get the points quickly. They're down by 25 to Georgia and almost won the game in the second half. I was like, what? This Florida team, to be honest with you, is the closest team to Duke. I think the fact that Florida went to Auburn, destroyed Auburn. I think the fact that Auburn lost to Duke too, before Auburn's kind of on a little skid. Florida is my team, but I certainly might sprinkle a little bit on Kentucky too, just because. Are they in the same side of the bracket? I was going to relook at that. I might sprinkle a little bit on Kentucky as well.
Yeah, Kentucky the 6th, they would play them in the semis if they get to there. Kentucky would have to play Alabama first, then Florida. So not an easy road for Kentucky, certainly, but not an easy road for anybody. Kiev, you're probably going to think I'm crazy here. Just the ridiculous long shot possibility here. Mississippi State plus 15,000 is kind of a ridiculous price. I mean, if I'm going to share here real quick, shot quality. The rankings here: Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, as far as shot quality. Tennessee, Missouri, Mississippi State is ahead of Mississippi. They're ahead of Texas A&M. Mississippi State is not bad. I'm not saying Mississippi State's going to win the tournament. I just think that Mississippi State plus 15,000 is kind of ridiculous price. So if they win a couple games, you can get out of this at a nice profit. The other thing you could do is just do a money line rollover, but I don't think it's going to beat plus 15,000 because that's so much off the rest of the market. I was looking at this, Kiev. I wrote down a decent amount of these prices. Plus 15,000 here. A lot of the others are about plus 8,000. So a pretty big difference from that 15,000. I think I will bet this plus 15,000 for something. Though I do agree with you. I think I like Florida the best of the favorites here in this one. So that's my thoughts here on the SEC. Kiev, I don't know if you prepped for this one or not, but I do want to ask you about the Big Ten. Can we bring
first I want to say I don't think you're crazy. That's a wonderful number on a team that smoked Ole Miss twice, team that beat Texas A&M, and they've had tough luck against the bigger teams, but they kept it with Kentucky losing by 5. They kept it with Alabama only losing by 4. This is a tournament. This team gets hot. It's in a 151 ticket, even in the semifinals, is a pretty easy hedge in that situation. So I don't disagree with that at all.
All right. I was just placing a bet there on this one as we're talking. So not allowed to bet too much here, but I'll bet what I can. And let's move on to the Big Ten. I want to get your thoughts on the Big Ten quickly, Kiev, because I have a question about the Big Ten for you. Let me bring up the bracket here and the odds. So Big Ten, I feel like there's quite a few good teams in the Big Ten. We've talked about this before, Kiev. There's not really one team that stands out as a team that's probably going to win it all. To me, Michigan State, deserving favorite. But if you look at shot quality, even KenPom, they've been fairly lucky analytically. I don't know that, this is a Michigan State team that's quite as dominant as what they look like here at the end of the season. Having said that, Izzo's great in March. I don't necessarily want to fade them against the spread, but I think they're favored by quite a bit. I can't take them at the price that they're at right now. Michigan State plus 250, Maryland plus 350 on DK, Wisconsin plus 650, UCLA plus 650, Purdue plus 650, and on down the line. Kiev, am trying to think about whether I want to bet Wisconsin. This being your team, I wanted to ask you about this one. Wisconsin's a good team. What's the guy's name that's been out the last couple games?
One of our shooting guards here.
I know he's coming back. I don't remember his name, but
it's Max Klesmit, and he was a transfer from Green Bay. Played a couple years here. Kind of grew up in the program more or less. I mean, he only played 1 year at Green Bay. He's 6'4". He's really hot and cold, like the rest of this team. So it's Max Klesmit. I hope he's back. We're all asking when's he coming back, but we're not getting good answers. I think Greg Gard is really keeping it under wraps.
Yeah. That's so. The two that I was considering here, Wisconsin and Purdue. Purdue, the reason I'm considering them is I feel like they have an easier setup. They would play Rutgers or USC, and then Michigan. Michigan's really fallen apart lately. I think Purdue would be favored in that game. We saw Purdue blow away Michigan. So, I mean, this is not just me being captive to what happened in that game only, but I think Purdue is more consistent, at least, than Michigan. On the Wisconsin side, obviously they're on the same side of the bracket as Michigan State. I know some people like UCLA, but UCLA hasn't beaten anybody away from home, really. So I don't want to trust UCLA. They're a long ways from home here. I think Wisconsin's upside is about as good as anybody in this tournament. So what do you think of Wisconsin, first of all, Kiev? Plus 700 is the best I see.
I think about Wisconsin like I think of them every year. They're a team that can beat anybody and lose to anybody. And they proved that against Penn State where they screwed their double bye up. Being that they're only plus 650 and they don't have the double bye and they have 4 games to win this is a terrible number in my opinion. I think there should be a money line rollover, even though they will be favored. until they get to Michigan State. But the thing is, they get to Michigan State, then they're going to have to play a Michigan, a Maryland, an Illinois, or a Purdue, which is going to be very close too. I think the money line rollover should land you minimum 8-1, maybe 10-1 on Wisconsin if you like it. Now, here's the thing. I want to fade Michigan State. I think that's the weaker side of the bracket. It was almost a situation where I was kind of wishing Maryland would be on that side, but they're not. It's Wisconsin and the 5 and UCLA in the 4. I think Wisconsin blows UCLA away, but I think Wisconsin's the only team on that side that can beat Michigan State. So unfortunately, you're kind of forced into that one. They can lay an egg. They can be hot. They finished the season cold, but you understand these kids can be mad at themselves. We've seen teams lose their final games. Look at Delaware right now. And by the way, Sin City Sharp had a question about that Delaware game I do want to get into. But this Wisconsin team can beat anybody in this whole Big Ten. Will they? I don't know. I think a money line rollover on Wisconsin's good. I think Maryland's the most complete team in college basketball in the Big Ten. Maryland's the most complete team. The problem is they go against a Purdue team that's heating back up. There needs to heat back up. They've been awesome for a while. You're going against the Illinois team that got their stud freshman back for the tournament, which is going to do some damage, man. Morez Johnson, the guy is an absolute freak out there, man. And he's going to just be huge for Illinois' rebounding the ball. And then you have Michigan with the Twin Towers, Area 51. That's not an easy pass, especially if you're missing. They're going to get all your rebounds. So unfortunately, Maryland's just on the brutal side, So my thoughts is Wisconsin, moneyline rollover. Maybe you take a little Maryland on one side so you kind of hope that you're in that situation. That's what I did. I don't think I made a good bet on Maryland at 4.5-1, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. This is probably my least confident tournament.
All right. Yeah, I could see. I think 4.5-1 is a pretty decent bet there on Maryland Kiev. I mean, Illinois has been wildly just all over the place, volatile. So I don't know what to make of Illinois. If somebody can figure out Illinois, you're better than me. Michigan of late. I think Maryland's a good play at 4.5. I don't know if that's still available at 450 anywhere, but I think that's a good grab. I see Purdue plus 750 here on FanDuel, but again, the money line rollover might beat that as well. So let's see. Are we still? I'm having some technical difficulties there for a minute. We were glitching out. Hopefully, people can still hear us.
Brett C says Vanderbilt, obviously SEC 290-1 is a better value. I don't know about that. I think Vanderbilt it was great in the regular season, but I'm not super high on them to win the tournament. But I don't know. I mean, you're going to get the problem with the SEC is they're all minus LSU, and South Carolina. They're all really good teams, but there's still levels, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at their path here really quick. It's just, I guess that would make some sense given that they're.
I think they do beat Texas though, and there's lines out for tomorrow, including at the Madison Square Gardens, where I think is going to start hitting some unders soon. So be careful. There's lines out already on DK for tomorrow, and Vanderbilt's only like a -1.5, -2 point favorite on Texas. I think that's going to go up. So if you like Vanderbilt, Brett, I would take them now.
Agree with that, and I think they definitely have a chance there against Texas A&M in the second game. So I don't hate it. Could be a decent value there to make a little bit of a run. All right, the game that Sin City Sharp asked about, I believe, was UNC Wilmington. Is that correct?
It's Delaware against Wilmington, I believe. I'll quickly say my spiel. I mean, he was talking about the total 148.5. That Action Network likes it. I hate betting overs in championship games. And Kyle, I don't think Kyle's ever done it in over 10 years, probably. The under is already much lower than the efficiency numbers, right? So, I mean, Ken Palm's got this game in the mid-high 150s. I'll pull it up. I looked at it a while ago, and now I'm trying to do this by memory. 159. Okay. Ken Palm's got this at 159, and the number's already pushed all the way down, to 148.5. So I think there's no value there. the whole being in a championship game at Care First Arena is already factored into the numbers. So it's like I still lean under, but I'm not going to take an over in a championship game. I think it's a losing bet in the long run. So it's almost one of those you can throw away your metrics type situations in many cases. Kyle, what about you?
Yeah, I can't take under when it's that much below all the efficiencies. I mean, I will say they weren't that high in the regular season when they played each other. So I think 159 is clearly too high as far as a projection for this. But this has not been one of the arenas that's gone, straight unders. This is not Missouri Valley Conference tournament, which I love Arch Madness. That's the best. But I think I still lean under a little bit, but I'd like them to score a decent amount at the beginning of the game, bet a live under, something like that. If we get a 150 something on a live number, I think then I would take the under because I think it will slow down a bit.
It's amazing that this team loses 11 out of their last 12 games. 11 out of their last 12, and they run through 4 games shooting 55% from 3-point in this tournament. And that's just the fun, crazy thing about March Madness that we love. I want to watch this game. I'm going to the Cubs Brewers spring training game after this, so I always put my phone down and try to find a game while that's on. But I'll have to see what time it is. I just think that if the steam rolls away from Delaware, from Delaware, then this could be a blowout for UNC Wilmington and the running clock at the very end of this game. And UNC Wilmington does play slower in general. So that's what I'm a little bit worried about. I will say UNC Wilmington isn't the greatest 3-point defending team. So I'm not taking the under, but that's my last thoughts on it.
Yeah, nothing here that I really want to bet that much. We'll see if there's any value betting it live, but this is not one I really even considered. All right, Kiev, I know you got to run here, so let the people know where they can check out your work.
Yeah, check us out, theoddsbreakers.com. We already just sent out our free bracket challenge. I'll be filling out a bracket. My son's going to fill out a bracket. Kyle's got one, and Jordan, his son's going to be filling out one too. We do it every year. Bring the family in. We just give away $500 at the Odds Breakers, and do it just to give back. And it's a fun time of year, and I like to share it with people that listen and people that love college basketball like us. So we're doing that. And I know Kyle's got some good stuff coming, but we also have some survivor brackets that are coming out here on Splash Sports. And we have a fun upset bracket at the season that we are sponsoring that you pick the higher seed and you get the multiplier for the seed times the round. And you literally can win this thing without winning with the championship, just by picking those good seeds. And I love the thoughts that have to go into it because, I'm sick of people picking all 1 seeds like my wife. That's all she'll do. She'll have all 1 seeds in the Final Four. That's not fun. Come on. So bring in that upset bracket and check us out at the Odds Breakers. Kyle, thanks, man, for doing this. This is wonderful.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on here. I love the upset bracket. You can check out my work at huntersportspicks.com. 48-22 in the last 70. It's been a good run here of late. We'll try to keep it going. You can sign up for the free picks newsletter over there as well. I'm going to do a couple more videos separate from this doing the conference tournaments. But guys, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.